If you are curious about the Wright County real estate market, we're going to go over that in just a moment. And if it's been a while since you've gone house shopping, I have some tips and thoughts just to get you to think a little bit before you go out on your next property tour. I'm Erica Carlson. I'm with Bricks Real Estate. I help people buy real estate all over the Twin Cities. And if you learn anything new today, I would love for you to join my growing channels, whether you found this on YouTube, my professional Facebook page, or my Instagram. So if you are ready to start house shopping, or if you want to set up like a discovery call so we can just talk about things that are on your mind in terms of real estate, feel free to click that first link and then you can pick a time and a date that works best for you. So before we go over that data, let's just briefly talk about my 4 tour tips for your property search. And the first one, and it'll probably take me the longest, is to discuss who comes with you, who's important to come with you on your property search. And so I'm going to try not to be long-winded, but let's think carefully about whether children are going to be beneficial or are going to make your house tour kind of challenging. So at one point I made a full video on this, but I've never had a chance to upload it. So the short version is, of course, little kids can be really hard to shop with, but not to make anybody have any sort of feelings. Older children or older kids and teens can also make a house tour really hard. People obviously have opinions at all levels. So of course our littles might just be squirmy and not understand that they have to stay off of furniture, things like that. So setting some ground rules if you do need to bring little people with you is always helpful. And then our older kids, same thing. Let's set some ground rules. Do they get to share their opinion in the house? Do we want to ask and have a private conversation later on? What works best for us as a family? Think about that. On the flip side, let's think about older people than ourselves. Do we want to bring our parents or our grandparents? Is this opinion helpful? Is it actually complicating it? Because you're shopping for you and assuming that these people aren't moving in with you, is their opinion going to be helpful or is it going to be hindering? So thinking about parents and children is extremely important. Of course, all decision makers should be with you when you're going to tour because it is really challenging when it's only one person. And if you're going to shop like that, make sure you're working with your agent in advance that this is your intention because it's good for him or her to know that this might be multiple trips. Now, depending on the market, especially the one we've been in for a long time, we don't have time for that. Like that other person might need to do a video tour or might need to rely on one person's opinion of it, which is obviously challenging. So bottom line, always bring all decision makers. But children and parents, no offense to anybody, but should be considered wisely. And big entourages are always going to be really challenging for all of us. Like the decision makers need to think, they need to process, they need to look carefully. So our second consideration is video. We are in a time where video inside a house and outside a house and Ring doorbells are all very normal and should be expected. In fact, my best tip for you is to almost like act like you are on a reality TV show. Somebody is videoing you. And that always is a little uncomfortable, but we are in a time where we're probably being videoed no matter where we are anyway. So there is no exception when we are in somebody's personal property. So it could be either of those things. I know like people, when they notice them, they tighten it up a little bit, but you should always go into every single house assuming there could be hidden cameras or obvious cameras. The law in our state is that they're not supposed to be listening to audio. I always tell my sellers that they're not supposed to be listening to audio. What people actually do, I don't know. So let's assume they can listen. Let's assume they're watching. Now, here's another consideration. Sometimes people just get up and go to their neighbor's house. So that person you're waving to next door that you think is the neighbor could actually be the homeowner. So as you're walking around outside, do assume that people are listening that might be the owner that aren't as far away as you think. I think Ring doorbells in particular pick up audio down the driveway a lot more than you think. So it's not that you have to not say, I don't like the carpet in the bathroom. I don't think that that's a secret. But I think if you're like, do you think we should go under? And now your real estate agent is standing in this house going, well, this just isn't the time or place to talk about this. So anything negotiation wise should certainly be discussed off property. And I mean, down the driveway and away. And, if you are giving feedback about what you like and don't like about the house, you do have to be aware that might be getting used against you in negotiations. So my third tip is to be aware that taking pictures and videos may actually not be permitted. You want to work with your agent before you're snapping video and pictures. I know when I'm doing video tours for people, I am communicating that with the listing agent so that we are not, violating anything. If I'm having to share that, I'm going to be cognizant of not making that information public. So if you are taking pictures, you certainly cannot be uploading that to social media. You need to be aware that this is somebody's personal residence until it's not. And so think about, if it was your house, would you appreciate somebody taking pictures of things? Probably not. So we want to be aware of that. My last tip is maybe kind of obvious, but the fourth one is use your imagination. Whether you don't like the paint color, you don't particularly like their drapes or their lighting fixtures, kind of those low level things can be changed over time. People are going to have their own aesthetic, their own styling. This may not be your look, but at the end of the day, we're shopping for layout, we're shopping for location. These are the things that are going to be incredibly hard to change. Yes, walls can sometimes be taken down or be added, but for the most part, do you like the style of this property? Do you like the location? After that, try to erase, or what my nephew said to me recently, which is delete the items, okay? Can you delete the items? Don't try to imagine your things in place of it, but just use the things as space, okay, my couch is bigger than this. Is my couch going to fit here? Or we're down in the basement. Can I get my couch down these stairs? Possibly. Is this going to be complicated? Maybe you don't care about things like that. I'm just giving examples. So low level things can be changed over time. Let's try to look past paint color and lighting fixtures, and bigger things like, do I like the size of this room? Is this going to work for me? Do I want to be in this school district? Etc. Things like that. All right. Hopefully you took something away from my tips. Some of them I know were probably more obvious than others. So let's jump into the data now and make some observations to help you, whether you're thinking about buying or selling, or you're just curious about our current market. It's August 7th. We're looking at midsummer, coming to the end of the summer real estate market, and things are not quite the same as they were in the spring. We've talked about that over the last couple of weeks. Our inventory is really up. We're at 597 total. So the ones without contingencies are 541, which you're seeing on my screen. So this is up over last week, which is up over the week before and the week before that. So buyers, it continues to be a good time for you to shop. And this would be all of the Twin Cities, but we're looking at Wright County in particular. Pendings are up. I'm not really sure what to make of that. We're at 260. You look back the last couple of weeks, which was a little bit lower. Closings, they have gone up since the last 2 weeks, but overall we were in the 200s before, so now we're in the high 100s. So definitely not getting as many transactions as we were previously. Now let's look at our showings per week. You guys know this is my favorite set of data. We're looking at the 250 to 500K range only. This would be any property at all, whether it's a condo or a townhouse or a house. Just going up to that 500K. The reason we do it this way is we're looking at averages. Of course, if we're looking at the upper luxury market or below 250, the numbers are going to change. So if those are something, that's important to you, ask your agent or ask me. I'm happy to pull that data for you. So speaking in generalities, we're at 2.7 this week. So what does that mean? That means if I'm a seller, I'm getting 2 to 3 showings this week if I'm in that price point. If I'm in Wright County, I'm getting 3.7. Okay, that's not a number. So 3 to 4 showings a week in Hennepin County. So as usual, Hennepin County always paces a little bit faster, more population, more selection and inventory, more demand is going to be in Hennepin County since it's a metropolitan area. And now I see my my data for days on market disappeared, but from memory, so I'm not re-recording this video, it is slower than what it was last week. So it was closer to 25 on the average. I don't remember the median. So it came down. So finishing my thought on days on market, it's taking about a month to sell a house. So if you're out there buying houses and you go, ooh, this one's been on the market for 30 days. You guys, that's just normal, okay? So that's not a long time. It takes a few weeks to sell a house on average. Maybe if it's hitting 60, 90 plus days, maybe the seller's open to negotiating. Maybe they're not. Just because a lot of days on market does not mean somebody is going to drop their price significantly to sell it at any cost. I see a lot of that where someone comes in at 100,000 below asking and thinks, well, it's owned by a bank or it's got all these days, so of course they want to sell. No, most people have a price in mind and might rather keep it than sell it if that's the only price they're getting. Because I jumped around days on market, showings per week per listing, pretty normal for this time of year. A little bit faster paced, as you can see from the previous week. So that's interesting. Now that could be lots of things. It could be the interest rates came down just a hair. That might have got some people excited and like off the fence. But let's go back to July 31st. Notice Wright County jumped up to 3.6. That was an interesting week, and I want to put it probably in that category of an anomaly because it was just outstanding. We were at 2.1, we jump up to 3.6, and now we're back to 2.7. So I think there was just probably one or two, maybe three houses that threw the data off. Maybe something interesting that caught a lot of people's attention, or something that was maybe like priced really well for what it was. We will see these anomalies over time here and there, but overall about 2 to 3 showings a week is what you should expect as a seller. Buyers, there's opportunity. We're kind of seeing how things are playing out with the election year. There's lots of people that are looking to sell their house. So if you've been on the sidelines, I'm never going to be the kind of agent that says this is the time to buy. No, the time to buy is when you're ready to buy a house. But if you are curious about things, you want to set up getting customized searches sent to your inbox instead of using the internet. If you have questions about how things are moving, if you want to connect with a loan officer, let me know. In my final words today, if you have not been paying attention to my last videos, you're not on my newsletter, things like that, or you don't have a good real estate agent informing you of things, it's August 7th. In 10 days, the rules are changing and we can no longer show houses without an agreement. Folks, it's time to pick your real estate agent before you start looking at tours of houses. There's nothing wrong with hitting the buttons on these online web portals. Do keep in mind you're going to be set up with somebody randomly. You can ask questions, but you will be asked to sign some level of an agreement. Now, that person may ask for exclusivity, meaning you can only work with them. That person may have a higher commission or a lower, depending on their style of business. There's no right or wrong. It's negotiable, but that doesn't mean just because it's negotiable that if they don't change it for you, that's wrong. Negotiations don't mean that that people have to change things just because it is negotiable. So the best thing for you to do as a consumer is think about who you want your real estate agent to be before you start looking at houses. Don't be taken off guard if they ask you to sign an agreement. This is just the way, these are the rules now. This is real estate changing in 2024. We're going to get used to it. The only exception, I believe, is open houses. So there are these gray areas where it's like this is a little confusing, but ask questions. Educate yourself. Try not to be defensive when somebody is trying to educate you. A lot of people I talk to, they don't want to get pre-approved till they find a house. They're not going to want to sign an agreement. Times have changed, and there might be agents asking you to do this now instead of waiting till the 17th, and I just don't want anybody to be taken off guard. Thank you for joining me. I'm here for you if you need me.